making some rolls. I guess you could call that living. I love to eat my fucking rolls every day. If you don't like my rolls, I guess that means you're gay. That's definitely not going in. Rolls. 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 It is now officially that time of the year where we gather around people we don't necessarily like. We make a whole bunch of food that we don't necessarily want to make, and we tell stories that nobody necessarily wants to hear. Of course, I'm talking about Thanksgiving time, the second most wonderful time of the year, aside from Arbor Day, aside from National Women's Day. What would be a funny day? Okay, Google, what's the most boring holiday?
I don't know the answer to that specific question.
Juneteenth?
Today.yougov.com.
That's not good. Everybody's got a recipe for their turkey or their mashed potatoes or their green bean casserole, but I'd never ever see people talk about rolls. Small, handheld loaves of bread are one of the major food groups here in American culture, and I intend to make it one of the primary things that you make this Thanksgiving season. Now, enough turkeying around. Let's get right into this recipe. Everything you need for this roll recipe is right here in front of me. Super basic set of ingredients. We're basically making an incredibly basic, rich dough. If you don't know what that means, it just means it's a dough that contains sugar and some sort of fat. In this case, we both have butter and egg. The egg has the yolk in it, which has a lot of fat. The egg also provides some structure to the dough so that we get a little bit of a springier, more stable dough in the end, but that's really science that I'm not fully qualified to explain, so I may be completely wrong about that. And unless you desperately need an arm workout this week, I suggest you mix all of this in a stand mixer. Believe me, a stand mixer is going to make your life a million times easier with a rich dough like this. The addition of sugar and fat to this recipe means that the gluten strands in the bread flour are going to be shorter, so it's going to take much longer. It's going to take much more kneading in order to get the proper gluten development that we need to make this bread beautiful. So, like I said, unless you really want an arm workout, I suggest using a stand mixer. First things first, I'm going to take my sugar here, and I'm going to dissolve it in my milk. We're also going to heat up this milk, not only to help dissolve the sugar, but also to warm it up a bit. We're going to have to warm up the milk. Not only to help dissolve the sugar, but to also wake up our yeast. This is a process called blooming. A lot of recipes will be very hyper-specific about like the exact temperature your milk and sugar need to be. Just warm. Like a little bit colder than what you would consider like a warm bath. But if you need a number, it's like somewhere between 100 and 105 degrees. All right, I can feel this milk. It's the perfect temperature. If you need an exact number, that's the temperature we're going for. Somewhere around there. Now that our milk is warm, we're gonna go ahead and add our yeast. Make sure that is nice and dissolved. And we're gonna let this milky, yeasty, sugary mixture sit here until it gets nice and frothy, and that's when we know that our yeast is perfectly bloomed. As you can see, our yeast mixture here is incredibly foamy. It looks like whipped cream. I don't even know how I would describe that. The best way to tell how foamy it is to grab a spoon, any spoon, and just see if the surface breaks. Oh yeah, it's like a souffle. It's like a chocolate mousse up in here. So now that we know our yeast mixture is perfectly bloomed, let's actually make this fucking dough. Okay, so with your stand mixer at the ready, let's make this frickin' a dough. I'm going to start by pouring in the yeast mixture. Try to get all that yeast and goodness in there. Then I'm going to pour in the rest of the dry ingredients. This is the flour and the salt. And then we're going to give it a little bit of a mix here. Dough hook added. Lower the dough hook. And just mix it until we get a shaggy-ish dough. Alright, a quick note. You see how like wet this dough is? This is a wet dough. This is also why we need to mix it for so long. Just a quick note. All right, so we've hit the 10-minute mark, and if you couldn't tell, this dough is not ready yet. So we're gonna let it run for probably another 5 minutes and see where it ends up from there. All right, this has been going for a little over 20 minutes, and we're just gonna check on the gluten here. And the way to do that is to peel yourself off a little bit. We're gonna roll this up to a tiny little ball, and then we're gonna take it and stretch it. And if we can get it really thin to the point where we can, see light through it, that's when we know we've got enough gluten development. And this is pretty much there. You can see how it's still sticking to the bottom of the bowl there. That's mostly because of just how well hydrated this dough is. All right, so here's our dough, our finished dough. I'm just going to take the whole lot out. It should come out in one big bit with hardly any left in there. And we're gonna do a little bit of pre-shaping here. I'm just pinching and folding it over itself, as you can see, just to give us a nice even shaped dough. With that same mixing bowl, just get a bit of neutral oil, vegetable, canola, palm oil, not palm oil, and just lube up your bowl there. Flip your dough in there, back and forth a few times. Push it down, just a little bit of a light tapping, and that should be your end result. And then either using saran wrap, a plate, or my personal favorite, a damp kitchen towel, just cover your dough. We're gonna go ahead and let this rest for about half an hour. By that time, the dough should have doubled in size and we'll be more than ready to start shaping into our rolls. So see you in half an hour. All right, it has been just about 30 minutes. Let's take a look at our dough and see what we're working with. Oh yeah, brother. That's exactly what your dough should look like after about 30 minutes. Now that our dough is fully fermented, this is called the bulk ferment, we're gonna go ahead and do what's called punching down, which is literally punching the dough. See that? We're trying to knock some of the excess air out of this dough. There's that. And we're gonna have to divide this dough into 15 equal parts. And to do that, I'm gonna use a scale. Set my bowl on the scale here. Tear the scale till it reads 0. I'm gonna pull out my dough from the bowl here. And what number are we left with? 1,000, what does that say? 1,015 grams. So if we take that number, 1,015, and we divide it by the number of rolls we want to make, in this case, 15, we get about 67.67-ish grams per roll. That is what we're gonna be scaling our rolls out to. So, with a clean surface and a sharp knife, let's go ahead and get to scaling. So now that we have all 15 of our rolls scaled out, it's time to shape them. But before we shape them, we have to grease our cooking vessel. This is what's known as a 2-inch or 200 half pan in the culinary industry, but you can just use a 9x13 or any other kind of cooking pan, casserole, dish type thing that you got lying around. As long as it can comfortably fit all 15 of these rolls, it really doesn't matter. Just be sure to grease the bad boy up before you start shaping your rolls. The most common method of shaping rolls like this is to just take one of our scaled out pieces of dough here, take your hand in a nice claw shape over the dough, and then you're just going to rotate that piece of dough around in a circle. You'll feel it start to tighten and take shape. Try to keep all your fingers in contact with the table at all times. I tend to also try to keep this fleshy bit of my hand in contact with the table, and it should shape itself. Behold. Ta-da! If you want to feel even fancier, you can do 2 globs of dough at the same time, 1 in each hand. See? Just repeat that same process for all the other 14 portions of dough that you got. And now that your dough has been scaled and shaped, we're going to cover the dough once more and allow to rest for probably another half an hour. This is called proofing. This is the final fermentation that you do when you bake before throwing your bread into the oven. Furthermore, I would suggest that you preheat your oven to 365 degrees during this time, because the last thing you want to do is overproof your dough while waiting for your oven to preheat. So I will see you guys in another 30 minutes. Woo! There is one last preparation that we need to make before we bake our rolls, and that is to make an egg wash. How do you make an egg wash? Well, first things first, egg. I have one whole egg here. Just gonna crack that into a bowl. Make sure you leave that shell in there. One whole egg, and then an equal-ish part of milk. Just like that. I didn't realize how small this vessel would be. Hold on. In you go. Go ahead and whisk this together. You want this to be as smooth as possible. You don't want any of the white still hanging around in there. Oh my lord. My cat's been playing in this box all day. Missy, I just need you to be quiet for like 30 more seconds. Okay. You don't want any of that egg white hanging around in there. You want this to be able to brush pretty easily onto the rolls, both before and during baking. Just something to be aware of. So it's been closer to like 25 minutes, almost 30 minutes. Still got a few minutes on my timer here. But let's take a peek at our rolls. Oh, mamma mia. This is exactly what you're looking for. These are also about doubled in size from when they went in. And when you poke them, they should come back most of the way. But still leave a slight dent. You see that? One more time. Yeah. See that? Should have just a slight dent still left in it. These are perfectly proofed. We're going to take our egg wash that we prepared earlier, and we're just going to brush all of these lightly and evenly. Ideally, you'd use like an actual bristle brush, not this silicone brush, but the one I have kind of sucks, so this is the best I got. Let's go ahead, stick these puppies in the oven, and I will see y'all in about 10 minutes. Alright, 10 minutes are up, so let's take a look. Oh, mamma mia. Oh, Lord almighty. Look at them hoes. So you can see the color's still very pale. We're going to go ahead and give this one more brushing of our egg wash. And now we're going to throw this back in for about another 10 minutes or so. Well, let's see what that looks like after that. Alright, so I actually left it in there for an extra 15 minutes because I don't think it was getting enough color fast enough. But now, these hoes should be ready. Alright, look at that. Look at that. Wow. And you listen. Gorgeous. So now that these are officially ready, I'll get myself a cooling rack. We're going to let these rest for a few minutes, just in the pan still. Then we'll take the whole lot of them out and let them cool on the rack for another few minutes. And after that, these hoes will be done. And there you have it. The greatest rolls that you are going to make this Thanksgiving Day. Let's go ahead and peel one of these bad boys off. Oh my lord, look at that. Oh, these are still a little warm, so they're not going to have the same spring. But when they're cool, oh buddy, you better believe it. Look at this, look at this. Oh. Let's go ahead and give it a bite. No butter, no salt, no nothing. Let's try it. These are so good. These are very good. The great thing about this dough recipe is it's not limited to just rolls. You can make hamburger buns, hot dog buns, any sort of like bun. You can even make this into like loaves and make sandwich bread out of it. You don't even have to put the egg wash on it if you don't want it. This dough is so good. It's a little sweet. It's a little buttery. It's a very good all-purpose type of dough. I promise you, you bring this to your Thanksgiving gathering this year, and everybody will love you. They'll wonder, where did you learn how to make rolls like that? And you'll be able to say that your friend me showed you how. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, if you learned something, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, whatever the hell you kids do nowadays. I would really appreciate it. It really helps me out a lot. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Hello!